Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to recap my gameplays from June 2024. I'll give a short recap of each one, especially ones that were newer to me, and then talk to you a little bit about some of my favorites of the month. And just as a kind of a heads up, this is probably the last film that I'll make in this studio, in this house. We're getting ready to move from the LA area up to the Seattle area. And I don't always put out that many videos each month anyway, but over the next month we'll be finishing up a project at UCSB, moving to Seattle, finding a new house, getting moved in. So probably be difficult for me to do much filming and posting over the next couple months. But I will be back at it once we get settled into our new place in the Seattle Tacoma area. So without further ado, let's get to the games of June 2024. All right, so I'll be using the Board Game Geek site again to talk through. You can see over the last couple of years what my gameplays look like and what it's been this year. This month of June, pretty good, early summer month here, and so had quite a few gameplays, not as much as last month. Let's go ahead and take a look at what those 36 gameplays entailed. All right, so if we scroll down here, you can see that there are 22 games that were played, and quite a few of them were new to me. So Terracotta Army was new, Rolled West was new, Java was new, the Gallerist was new, Diced Veggies was new, Come Together, Carson City, the card game, Calimala, War Chest, Path of Civilization, the Crew Mission Deep Sea, and then Endangered. All of those were new to me, so quite a few. I'm going to just quickly go from the bottom of the list here backwards through from least to most played, give a real quick synopsis of each. So, Terracotta Army, just played it, as I said, for the first time. I was really curious about this game by Board and Dice because I like the game Xi'an. And I think just thematically, it has that connection, although this is by different designers with different art. But I really love that striking art of the game box. And I was really curious to see how it might compare to Xi'an and how this piecing together the puzzle of putting out the Terracotta Army figures would be and what this wheel mechanism, how that would work. So I was very curious to see how that would all come together. And we had a really good time. I enjoyed this one quite a bit. It was a little bit more of a complicated teach than I thought it was going to be. And it might just be that the friend who was teaching hadn't played it in quite some time. So, but there seemed to be quite a bit of little tiny things to remember and lots of iconography. But once we kind of had the iconography in hand and we played around, it really did feel pretty streamlined and pretty easy to understand. And yeah, these figures really do look very cool. In Xi'an, I won't give a big comparison. Maybe once I had a chance to play Xi'an again, because it's been months, and then play Terracotta Army maybe a couple times, maybe I could do a comparison, a more thorough one. But there are a few different tracks and things you're working on in Xi'an that make that one a little bit more interesting. And there's an interesting card play where it's almost like a bidding type of mechanism in Xi'an that makes it quite a bit different. Really, the only overlapping thing is putting out these statue figures in this grid and that area control, area majority kind of thing that is in common, and then obviously the theme. But I really enjoyed quite a few pieces of this, but I found it to be interesting that the money aspect of it, and it could be just the way the wheels were lining up for us, the money aspect of it was really tight, hard to get money. And then till the end of the game, and then at the end of the game, it seemed like we had all the money we needed. But really enjoyed thinking ahead with these different round markers down here at the bottom of the board with how we're going to take majority for each of those each round and kind of planning ahead, but also trying to get done what you need right now, keeping the clay wet enough to build the statues, all kinds of different things to think about both for in-game scoring and during the game scoring round by round. So very clever game, really enjoyed that one quite a bit. So I looked at a lot of pictures there. I think I'll just cycle back through here instead of trying to go backwards. So that was Terracotta Army. Rolled West, and I'll briefly speak about this one, but it's an old one by Tasty Minstrel Games, just a small little box, and I can't show you hardly any of these even when I do own them because most of them are boxed up already. I've just got a handful of them here behind me just for a good backdrop here, and then I'll be packing those up soon. But this game by Daniel Newman is a really simple roll and write. You're rolling these dice and you're trying to get wood and silver and copper and gold to be able to fill in the different things on the chart. You're trying to track the things you're saving up here in the top, and you're building in the city here in this little quadrant, and you're trying to fulfill these contracts here. And down at the bottom, you're building up with the tents and buildings in this area down here. So And there's kind of a race to different things. First come gets more points here, and same thing here, and majority down here scores more. So lots of interesting things on this roll and write. It was a clever little game. We played it actually on the ferry ride coming back from Catalina Island with some friends and had a great time playing the game. It, passed about 20, 30 minutes. None of us had ever played it before, so it was really easy to learn and quick to play. Enjoyed Rolled West. Leap is one that's not new to me. I've played before, and so you've probably seen me talk about this one in the past, but this one is such a clever tile placement game because the tiles are these leaf shapes, and the way the tips touch are the actions you're going to take. So for instance, if I had just played this yellow leaf right here, it's touching the brown one, and then the brown and the red here, and then the yellow and the red here. So I would get a yellow action, a red action, a red action, a brown action, and a brown action. And then you're putting mushrooms out here on the growing bed of leaves and trying to upgrade them from baby mushrooms to grown mushrooms to score. They have to be grown to score. And you got this tree track that you're racing up and getting different bonuses as you go. And you're also trying to get these animals, which there's some really beautiful art of the animals that you can see here. You're trying to get these animals built into the den, and so they start above the board and then you push them down at different phases in the game. And so it was really a clever game. We played it a few times already and taught it to some friends of ours. They really enjoyed it. Again, the art is beautiful, the production quality is terrific, and we don't have the fancy Kickstarter version. We just have the normal version. But Leaf really enjoyed that one again. Java just played a couple of days ago a Kramer Kiesling game from Ravensburger and Rio Grande. I think we might have the Rio Grande. Maybe not. Maybe it's only Ravensburger. No, I think we have the Rio Grande version. I think that's what our box says. Again, it's packed up, so I don't know. But Kramer and Kiesling, this is the one that I just don't hear very many people talking about, but it's really nice. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's got the kind of Acropolis feel if you played that game of building up in 3 dimensions with your tiles. But the board is ever changing, and you're trying to create these cities out of the villages. And so here's kind of a layout of the board, probably a fairly late game state. And the little pegs here represent the developers that each of you are putting out there, and you want to have your developers on the highest level around these palaces, which turn the villages into cities. And you got these irrigation things that are growing, and you're trying to surround them to gain points for that. It's a really fun tile laying game, and you got a small little card element to it that actually I think probably was more valuable than we expected it would be. I don't think we capitalized that on it enough, but it was just the four of us, and none of us had ever played it before. All four of us really enjoyed it. And I think it's one that my wife and I will want to introduce to some other people and get back to the table again. It's a really nice tile laying game from 2000. So 24 years old, but it was a great one. So really enjoyed that one, Java, by Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kramer. All right. Harmonies played it again, and this is kind of a Cascadia type game. Many people have been talking about it lately, so probably many of you watching the video have heard about it. And I played it before, and so you've heard it on my videos, even if you've watched my previous videos. But you're laying out these tiles to try to build up trees and mountains and buildings and create the longest river, and you're scoring based on which of these animal cards you choose and trying to replicate the patterns that are on those cards. And every time you fulfill the card pattern, then you put these little amber discs on the top. And we played with an expansion. I think it's an expansion where you start off with sort of an animal that's your, I don't know, spirit animal or something. And it has a clear tile or a clear cube they're going to be putting out when you first get that one completed. And the one thing I would say about Harmonies, it's really beautiful. It's lovely production. It's a fun little puzzly clever, oh, someone's upgraded their bits here, a clever game that I really do enjoy, but it always seems to end so fast, and maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I kind of a lot of times just had wished it would go a little bit longer, but I really enjoyed it. I love tile laying games. I love being able to create patterns like that. So Harmonies, again, another fun one. Garden Geckos, you've seen possibly if you watched my channel, you've seen me create a video for it. I was on the Kickstarter preview. And so you hopefully know a little bit about this game, so I won't go into great detail. You can also watch my video if you'd like to. But this is one where you're laying out tiles and you're trying to create patterns in the tile that you have to always have like green to green and stone to stone, at least on one of the quadrants of the tile that you lay, so that you can put your gecko on that matching pattern. So this gecko was laid on top of these two yellows when this tile was played, and this gecko was played on top of these two yellows probably when that tile was played. And whenever a tile gets surrounded, then the bug in the middle gets eaten by the geckos that are predominant on that tile. And you also have some personal goals that you're trying to achieve, where you might be trying to collect the most of a certain bug, or you might be trying to make the largest contiguous section of grassland, for instance. And so you're trying to achieve that as you go. These cards here are contract cards, and so I'll explain this one. This one's got stone to stone, green to green, and blue to blue. So if you have a gecko on all three of these patterns out there, and you make one of those complete during your turn, you get to collect this card. And then this one means you've got a gecko touching a moth, and then a gecko touching a fly, and then another fly, and then it looks like a grasshopper. Then you get to collect that card, and you score for the bugs across the bottom of these cards. And the first one to get 6 of these cards wins the game. So a really beautiful production. I think they might have an alternate form of the box art that came up during the Kickstarter, and they may have some late pledges. I'm not sure. I'll try to remember to put a link down in the description below. But James Staley sent me a review copy, and I was excited to be a part of that project. And 10 Robot Games just continues to put out better and better games, I think, each time they develop one. So I'm looking forward to see what they have in the future. Played the Gallerist for the first time, and I tend to enjoy Vital Lacerda games. Usually comes with Ian O'Toole art, and they're from Eagle Griffin Games. And the Gallerist was one that I would probably rank kind of in the middle of the games that I've played from Lacerda. I enjoyed it. I think for me, the theme was a little bit harder to fit in my brain, maybe just because I'm not familiar with the art world and what it takes to run a museum, an art museum, or an art gallery. And but I did enjoy it. I liked figuring out when to buy the pieces, when to sell the pieces, when to develop the museum, and when to compete for these spaces over here. And see, even right now, I'm trying to remember the connection to all of these things, and it's just not clicking with me. So when the theme doesn't help me remember the rules, I think it's harder for me to really enjoy the game long term. I might enjoy it for one time, but then it's not necessarily going to draw me back into it. So that's one of the things that I really love about On Mars is the theme just makes so much sense to me, and it helps me understand what we're doing in the game. And it could be too that the Gallerist would make more sense if that was a genre that I was familiar with, a profession that I was familiar with, and if I played it more than just the once. So I definitely enjoyed the Gallerist and would be happy to play it again. As are most games, it's a pretty heavy teach to learn it because there's a lot of rules, and it takes quite a bit of time to play it, but very enjoyable game, the Gallerist. All right, next up, Forest Shuffle. Played this one again, and I played it a few times both on BGA and with the physical game. And I definitely prefer the physical game. It seems like it just takes a while for the BGA to go through all the turns, but both are fun. And in this one, you're collecting these cards, and you're putting trees out and then putting animals and bugs and other plants around the trees to build up your forest. And like a lot of tile laying games, although this is cards, you're trying to pattern them out. For instance, every card that has a hare on it might get eaten by a fox or whatever, and so, or a wolf. And so you're trying to look at how each card scores and maximize the patterns and build out those patterns as best you can. It does have lovely art if you like that puzzle of trying to figure out how to put your animals together. So let's see, I think this one says you get 1 card for every hare, and then you get 2 points for every hare at the end of the game. So the foxes and the hares go together in terms of helping score. And for the butterflies, you want to have a variety of different kinds of butterflies, and the trees all score differently, and the birds and everything scores differently. So a really beautiful little puzzle game, and I believe there either is or coming soon an Alpine expansion, I think, for this game. So I'm sure that will bring it back into the hotness. It's a very good game. I enjoy it quite a bit. Don't own it, but I'm always happy to play it. Evolution, played again, this time just on BGA. Played it before with the physical game. My wife and I used to own this game, and we enjoyed it fine. I was surprised we didn't enjoy it much more, being biology teachers and loving that connection. But there was just something about the gameplay that didn't quite draw us in. It's really beautiful production. It's interesting. I think it fits the theme. The theme comes through somewhat. But for some reason, we just didn't really get drawn in by this one. So played it on BGA, and I feel like I probably actually did enjoy the physical version slightly better than the BGA implementation. So Evolution, fine game. I'd be happy to play again, but not one we kept in our collection. Next up, Dice Veggies. Just bought this one recently. I was given a gift card for Barnes & Noble, went and bought that game, took it on our vacation to Catalina Island, and played with the other couple that was there with us. Very simple game. Mainly bought it because I'm pretty sure our grandkids would really love to play this one. And so you're putting the dice in this little tray, pulling up the tray, using a cleaver to cut out the dice like you can see in this picture. And the pips have to add up to 10 or less when you do that. you're trying to fulfill these orders. So like this one here needs 3 carrots, and this one needs 2 carrots at least, and probably something else. And so it's an interesting game of thinking about how you can best pull the dice out and how you can more quickly put together these recipes to score. And there are these little tokens that you can play to, I forget what that, it gives you I think it lets you turn a color into a different color, like maybe a jalapeno into an onion, and I think it might allow you to manipulate the numbers if I'm not mistaken. But it's been a couple weeks since we played and just played it that one time. Really clever game, cute production, one that I think we'll have a great time playing with our grandkids and even with adults. I think it's one of those that kind of crosses over, that adults can enjoy it and the kids will really love it as well. So looking forward to playing that. We're, as I said earlier, getting ready to move, and we're going to be living much closer to all 6 of our grandkids. So excited for that. On our trip to Catalina, one of our friends brought Come Together, and we got to play that one, and I enjoyed this one. The theme was interesting, putting on a concert with that 70s sort of Woodstock kind of feel to it, and you're trying to get the bands and get them on the stage, and you're trying to capitalize on the timing of a lot of different things. You're trying to get more workers, but if you get some of the things, it was really interesting. One of the things we had to shoot for, in one round you need a lot of workers, in another round you need few workers to score. So every round there's some sort of thing you're working towards. But the production is great, all these screen printed meeples. The theme really comes through. It does not come with the bus, or at least the version we played with did not come with the bus. I'm assuming that's someone else's decoration. But the art is really whimsical and clever, and these little action selection pieces change every round, and so you're always trying to maximize how can I use my workers the best and use the actions that are becoming available. And sometimes you find a performer that you really want, or a certain stage that you really want, or sometimes you get a card that will let you sell pizza or beer or whatever, and so you want to get just those right combinations of cards. Really did enjoy Come Together. I don't know that it's necessarily a game that I want to come back to over and over and over again, but definitely be always willing to play, and it was a lot of fun. All right, next up, Carson City, the card game. I really love Carson City, and we tried this card game again while we were on vacation, and it has a very similar feel. It was really interesting because one of the players really dominated these leaders, and he did end up actually winning by quite a bit. But you've got these cards that you're using actually to bid, and when you're bidding on them, let's see if I can find some pictures here that show the other tiles a little better, the tile cards. So you're bidding on cards that have these different buildings, and sometimes you want certain buildings to be by certain other buildings. You're also bidding on 1 leader per round. So you only get 1 card in most cases unless you have a leader that gives you a special power. And so you're trying to build out your, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like 8x8 squares or something like that. So 4 of these cards across and 4 cards tall is your maximum limit. And as I said, you're bidding on both the leaders that are out there, and you're also bidding on these cards to build up and maximize your scoring. And so the cards also have an interesting, that each player has their own symbol, and on the back of this card each round, it's got a different symbol for who dominates in tiebreakers. So for this one, I don't know if you can see it very well, but here on this, the cow heads, the skulls there, whoever has those cards would win any tiebreakers. And so that was a fun game. Really didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoy Carson City, but did enjoy it. Definitely be happy to play that one again. Am keeping it in the collection, and thought, the theme came through with some of the characters, but it was just fun to build out those cities. Xavier George game, Quinted Games is the producer, publisher. All right, next up, Calimala. Calimala is one that I've had on the shelf for a while and finally got it played. I have the older version, although I just gave it away to a friend because I backed I think it was Kickstarter, or it might have been GameFound. I can't remember, this new version that has this art by Ian O'Toole. The designer is Fabio Lopiano, and the newer production is going to have really beautiful pieces. The game version we played with was the older version, and so it looks like this with the box and the art and the pieces. So still really nice quality. You've got these cities that you're trying to ship to, you've got these ports that you're trying to ship to, you've got these buildings that you're trying to contribute to their construction. There's this palace here that you're trying to ship artwork off to. You got to choose your actions based on this, and these get put out randomly every game, and so these tiles dictate which actions you're going to take, and take the one on either side of the tile that you play, but you stack the tiles too. And if you stack on top of another tile, everyone below you gets to go until there's 4, and then when there's 4 in a stack, that signals that we're going to score these tiles, which are also random every game. And these are going to say, hey, you're going to score the palace, or you're going to score the cities, or you're going to score this building, or you're, all kinds of different things. So there's, I think, 15 different scoring rounds. And the game either ends when all of those have been scored, or I forget what the other ending condition was. But yeah, there's at least one other ending condition. But it seemed like it would probably always come down to being really close on those two. I think it might have been when someone has all their tiles put out, these little circle tiles. And so, yeah, really enjoyed this game. Would be happy to play this one anytime. Very much looking forward to getting the newer version of Calimala. I think it has a 2-player version in this newer one, and some upgraded pieces, obviously, since it's a crowd-funded project. So very much looking forward to that. But really enjoyed the original version as well. All right, next up, Backgammon. Have been working at UCSB at a project there at the university, but in the evenings we have to have free time. We went to a little restaurant called Whitecaps, I think, and they had a bunch of backgammon sets just sitting out on their tables all over the cafe. And so we sat at a table, ordered some lobster rolls and some crab cakes, and got one of those little sets out, and just we had to look up the rules because neither my wife or I had played since we were kids. So we played the simple game. We didn't use this multiplier dice. We just used the regular, and played a game while we were eating and visiting after dinner. So really enjoyed that revisit to Backgammon after not having played it for years. Also not having played for years, Alhambra. And this time around it was on BGA, but I really like the tile laying of Alhambra. This is the big box, which is what we actually own. And we have played this one quite a bit, but I'll bet it had been over a year. And so we finally got it to the table, so to speak. I guess not really the table because it was on BGA, but we're able to play it. And in Alhambra, you're laying out your tiles. You're trying to create this wall to score points. You're also trying to choose the right colors of buildings, and to get the buildings, you're going to play cards that you have, and you're going to draw cards or play cards. And when you play the cards, you're trying to use them to buy these buildings and then put them in your Alhambra as you build them up. And so a really nice game. We, again, on BGA, the implementation was really pretty simple to understand. You do, if you pay the exact value and number on these cards that matches the number that's required on these buildings, you get a second free move. And if you can string those together, you can kind of extend that out. So I really enjoyed getting Alhambra played again, and I need to get that big box off the shelf. Obviously it's boxed up right now for the move, but when we get moved in, it'd be fun to try that one again in physical form. War Chest, had never played. This one's by Alderock Entertainment Group, AEG. The designers are Trevor Benjamin and David Thompson. And I hadn't played this one before, but my wife and I played it a couple of times. I guess it was just 2 times, and we enjoyed. We had never played it. Enjoyed the interesting drawing bag building mechanism as you're trying to think through, what your actions are going to be, and so you're thinking about the movements that you get from these cards. See if we can find some other pictures. There's a lot of pictures of the components. Here are some of the cards that could be part of your work, depending on if you have knights or scouts or swordsmen, and so it's an interesting game of figuring out which kind of actions you're going to use, which of the tiles you're going to use for each one. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you pick 4 out of all of these, and so those are the 4 that are going to be mixed up into your bag, and depending on which ones you have in play, you can make those moves out on the board, and you're trying to dominate spots and knock theirs off the board and put yours on the board. And so I had a good time. It's an abstract strategy game, head-to-head, although there is a team version, which I would like to play sometime, and there's some interesting expansions that we might want to pick up in the future at some point. Did enjoy War Chest. Final row here. First in Flight, I've played this one a number of times. There's a video on my channel giving a board game spotlight of it if you're curious to see more about the gameplay. So I won't go into any great detail, but you've got this rondel of actions, and you're using a push your luck card game where you're building up the cards that represent you flying the plane. And then this track around the outside is how far you fly the plane. This is an older board that only goes to 36. The newer version goes to 40. And as you play your cards, you're going to have different skills and different abilities, and these are the cards that you're pushing your luck with, but these are the advanced ones with more than a value of 1. And so, yeah, you're pushing your luck, playing the cards down, you're trying to time your actions, you've got a pilot with certain abilities, and like I said, you can add other skills and abilities as you play. You can see here's the 40. I was hoping maybe I could find a picture of someone who's got a flight in action, and don't see any pictures quickly, but really nice components, really nice pieces and gameplay if you like push your luck especially. And so I won't give you any more about the gameplay now, but if you're interested, you can watch my board game spotlight video and check out that one. We really have enjoyed that one quite a bit. All right, Path of Civilization. Just played this one on BGA and was invited to a game on BGA and then played it solo a couple times because I was enjoying it. It's a civilization building card game where you go through a certain number of rounds. There's a lot of components, and I think it uses AI art in the development of this game and the production of this game. So some people may not appreciate that, but you're climbing up these tracks in order to gain abilities to get these cards, and then these cards you're going to play on your board, and when you play them on your board, they're going to give you different actions, and you're either going to get the left side or the right side, so choosing where to play those cards in order to beat people to buying wonders or getting leaders. Interesting little basically card game where you're simulating a civilization being built. See if we can get some other pictures here of the game in play. So the physical game would have all these trays on BGA. I think actually the BGA implementation might be my preferred. I haven't played the physical one, so I did like to try it, but the BGA version, just having the simplicity, not having to set all these pieces up, might be kind of an advantage. I don't know. So I enjoyed Path of Civilization. I don't think I would probably ever choose to buy it. I would be happy to play the physical version. I'd be happy to play it on BGA as well. Next up, Crew Mission Deep Sea. So the Crew Quest for Planet 9 I'd played before, but hadn't tried the Mission Deep Sea version. And we took it with us on that trip to Catalina with our friends, and a few times we just marked it down as 3 plays, but we probably played on 20 or 25 hands. We got stuck on one of the missions and had to go through that one, I don't know, 12 or 15 times before we could win it. But it's a cooperative trick-taking game where you can't communicate verbally, at least. There's some ways you can give some nonverbal communication, and you're trying to figure out how to make, for instance, me win a trick with a yellow 7 and another person to win only 3 tricks and another person to win tricks with no trump. And you just have all these specific things you're trying to achieve in the game. And like I said, you can use these little tokens to be able to give some nonverbal hints like, oh, this is my only yellow card, or this is my highest yellow card, or whatever. And so it's a fun game. I like trick-taking games, and it was fun to play with that other couple. The 4 of us, we laughed and we would really tease each other about making good or bad plays. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We tease every time we see them now that, okay, now next time we're going to start at mission 12 and just jump right in. We're going to fly from there. Cartographers, probably many of you have played Cartographers. It's the polyomino, but you're drawing in the polyomino shapes or coloring in them. Some people really go overboard with their pictures like this, which is really cool if you have that artistic ability. And I have no ability or desire to do that. So, but they do look really cool if you like to. Basically, you're looking at these scoring cards, and you're scoring A and then B and then B and C and then C and D and then D and A. And so you're kind of looking to see, oh, what's scoring now and what's scoring next, and trying to build out your polyomino diagrams so that they match these scoring patterns. So here's a couple more people's. It's for me, when I look at these fancy ones, it's kind of hard. Okay, here's city and here's trees and water, but it's easier for me to just do a very simple, okay, water is blue and field is yellow, but they do look really cool if you want to take the time to draw them out that well. We're just trying to build out the patterns according to the rules, and there's a whole bunch of those cards that help you change the rules every game for these cards that I'm speaking of. So yeah, I love Cartographers. This time I just played it on BGA and just played it solo. Actually, one time we might have played with a group of 4, but most of the game, I think 2 of the 3 times, or 3 of the 4, however many it was, 2 of the 3, I think I played solo and 1 with a group. Stupor Mundi, I put together a video showing you how to play this on BGA because it was recently on GameFound as a crowdfunded project by Quinn Games. Nestor Mangone, not sure how you pronounce his name. And I have obviously not played the physical version because it's just in production. I know there are some people that got pre-production copies for previews, and this is what it looks like. It's going to be really incredible. I did back it. I loved the game on BGA and played it 4 times in May and then 4 more times in June. It's a really fun puzzle of working your specialists across these tracks, building up your own palaces, which is the yellow and the green and the black and the blue over here, while King Philip, I think it is building up his here in the middle. And you've got these edicts that you're doing, and it's card play. So you're playing these cards face up or face down to do either the actions on your player board or doing the actions on the cards themselves. And you're kind of timing everything out. You want to get the leader, or I think they're called leaders, or allies, I think. Allies. You're putting these allies in here too, and you're trying to time out when you get them to earn the most points from them. And then when you get them, it gives you kind of a goal, like you need to always have more pieces in your castle than Philip does, or more towers than he does, or more money than he does, or more wheat than he does. So it's a really fun game to me, very Euro style game with card play and timing and a rondelle, and there's trading, not with other players. It's very much a kind of a solitaire, multiplayer solitaire game, except that you do need to keep an eye on what they're doing so that you can make sure that if they're trying to manipulate the game with their allies, you can maybe try to manipulate the game in another way so they can't keep scoring their allies over and over and over again. So really excited to eventually get the physical version when that crowd-funded project is finalized, but still enjoyed 4 more plays on BGA. And if you'd like to learn how to play it, like I said, I'll try to put a link here to my video, and I explained, kind of did a game playthrough, and you can watch that if you're interested. And then the last game on the list, played 4 times, is Endangered. This one is a Kickstarter that just recently arrived by Grand Gamers Guild. Joe Hopkins is the developer, designer, and my wife and I have played 4 times, 3 times just the 2 of us. We saved the sea otters, as you can see here. We also saved the tigers. As you can see here, someone's actually painted stripes on their tigers, which is cute. And I think this might be, yeah, tigers. So we saved the tigers and we saved the otters. And then we also, because it was a Kickstarter, we got some other expansions, and we tried the monarch butterflies. I don't know if we're going to see any pictures of butterflies. But we tried the monarch butterflies, and unfortunately we did not save the monarch butterflies. In the game, you're each person choosing a different character, and each character has their own set of dice, which are just dice, but then they also have their own set of cards. And these smaller cards dictate their one special ability they have during the game. And each character has 3 or 4. You just choose one. And then they also have their own deck of cards that you're playing in terms of actions. And some of them are going to be actions where you put the dice to do a certain function. Some of them are going to be continuous ongoing abilities that your character has. Some of them are going to be one-time abilities that you play and then you're done. But the ones that are actions end up being over here on the side of the board, as you can see. You've got deforestation or pollution or other things that are accumulating that are putting your animals at risk. You're trying to raise money. You're trying to satisfy 4 of the 6 different countries up here. If you can get 4 of them to vote for your movement, then you'll have the support and you're going to be able to save those animals. But if you don't, in the certain amount of turns, then the animals are not going to be helped. And so we, like I said, we were able to save the sea otters and save the tigers, and then we just played yesterday with another couple, some friends. We saved the sea turtles just barely. There were only 2 of them left, but we got 4 countries to back us up. So hopefully we could get those turtles to rebound. But unfortunately, sorry, monarch butterflies, we couldn't save you. With having back the Kickstarter, I think I got what was called the Noah's Ark version. It has, I don't know, 8 or 10 more animals that we haven't tried yet. So we're very excited to get that one back to the table over and over and over again. I think it's one we'll have fun playing with our children. They're grown, but I think it'll be fun to play with them. Eventually, with our grandchildren, I think at this point it might be a little hard for most of them, although the soon-to-be 9-year-olds can probably handle it very soon, especially since it's cooperative. So those were the games of the month. Really quickly, let me kind of recap what were my favorites. I'm going to talk about a favorite new to me game and a favorite one that got back to the table. So as I think about first the ones that got back to the table, it was fun to play Stupor Mundi again, even though it wasn't technically on the table, it was just on BGA. But that was my favorite game of the month last month, so I'll skip that one, although I still really did enjoy it. Cartographers is always great. First in Flight was fun to play again. Alhambra was really great to get back to the table. Garden Geckos is always fun. Harmonies, Force Level, they were all Leaf. Every one that we played again was really fun, but I'll give the vote to Alhambra. It had probably been, I think my wife and I were trying to figure it out, maybe close to 3 years since we had played the physical form of that game. And she and I played with another couple of friends on BGA, but it really got us hankering to get that one back to the table. So once we get moved and get our boxes unpacked, I can see us getting that Alhambra big box open and trying some of the expansions. When we first got it, we played it a bunch with our son, who at the time was living with us, and we played a lot of games with several of the expansions. Really a great game. So that was probably my favorite back to the table, and it was a long time since it was back to the table. The new games, Endangered has been a lot of fun. We keep playing it, obviously. The crew had some great memories for us and our friends as we were enjoying that vacation in Catalina Island together. Calimala was terrific. Come Together was a lot of fun. Java was great. Terracotta Army. Gallerist was nice. So a lot of really great ones. Enjoyed Dice Veggies and think that'll be fun with the grandkids, like I said. But if I'm picking my favorite of the month, It's really tight between Calimala and Java. Those two were just spectacular. Terracotta Army right on their heels, though. Those are my top three. I'm going to give it to Java, though. I really just did love that three-dimensional view to the board and the clever thinking of when do you want to build the villages larger to capitalize on that, and when do you want to split them into pieces and kind of cut people off. It was really an interesting tile laying game, and having only played once, I feel like we've only scratched the surface of that game. Well, that went a little bit longer than I had hoped, but hopefully you enjoyed hearing about the games I played. I would love to hear what games you played in June. What were your favorites? Did any of the games that I play hit your table too? Or of the games that I played, are some of them your favorites, some that you do like, don't like? Have any questions about some of those games? Remember, I did do other videos on a few of them, so you can check out those if you'd like to. I'd love it if you would click the thumbs up for this video and show that you enjoyed it. Leave any kind of comments down below. I'd be glad to respond to those. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, that really helps out as well. As always, thanks for watching. This is Billy, Indiana, signing off.